Hey, how's it going, guys? Today I want to do a quick video about a new mouse that I got, that being the Pulsar X2V2 Mini, and my previous mouse being the Logitech G303 Shroud Edition. This mouse is quite heavy. I believe it's around mid 70 grams, whereas this is right around 50. So big weight drop there, and also the shape. The shape, I don't really mind the shape in general, but over time, because of my tendonitis in my hand, it tends to hurt. So that's why I switched over to a different mouse, and I've been thinking about getting this mouse for quite some time. If not this mouse, I would have probably gotten the Lamzu Atlantis Mini, but that was out of stock, so I ended up getting this mouse instead. And yeah, let's get into, I guess, a few different things about this mouse. So first off, physical overview, it is a pretty generic, pretty safe shape. It does have a slight taper in here, and it does have a pretty low hump. So let me just grab this mouse again for comparison. So yeah, the hump is a bit lower there. If you want a higher hump and a more kind of curved shape, there's the X2H2, which I believe will meet that criteria, I guess. But I went for this mouse because I almost exclusively claw grip, and this mouse helps facilitate that. Palming this mouse is very, very odd, even with my small hands. So yeah, this mouse is great for claw grip. I think if you have like very small hands, maybe you could palm this, but if you're like palm grip person, I just suggest getting a different mouse. This mouse is just so low here that it just makes it very odd. Specs wise, there isn't really much to say about it. It's pretty standard fare. 1000 hertz polling rate up to 26,000 dpi. Essentially one of those flawless sensors in here. Haven't had any issues with tracking at all. The only thing that I will note is that in the software it has a default, I think, 2 millisecond debounce time, which I think that's Pulsar kind of trying to cover up issues from their previous mice. But this mouse doesn't need it. I haven't had any issues with double clicking or anything like that. It's just been great. Debounce of 1 milliseconds is perfectly fine on this mouse. I haven't had any issues. Okay, let's talk about the buttons. So let's start off with the left and right click. And so these actually have quite a bit of travel to them. So a bit of pre-travel, and then you get the click, and then you have a chunk of post-travel. And that's true for both clicks. I think that's a little odd. I think Pulsar is trying to do a lot to avoid any double clicking issues, which they did have before, but I haven't had any issues with this mouse on 1 millisecond with any kind of double clicking. So I think they're trying a little too hard here, that it's taking away from a possibly amazing experience. But that said, I don't really find that this long travel or anything like that causes issues when gaming, which is when it really matters. In my day-to-day, I will kind of notice it, and some people do say that the clicks feel a bit mushy. I kind of agree with that, but again, when I'm gaming, not something I notice. But compared to the G303, which has kind of that hair trigger feel where it's like relatively light and very short travel, I feel like the travel on these clicks is basically double of what's happening here. So that's a little disappointing. The scroll wheel is nice and defined though, so no issues there. I personally like a very defined scroll wheel. Some people don't, but right, that's all personal preference. However, pushing in the middle mouse click or the scroll wheel takes a bit of force, and I don't use this middle mouse click a lot in games, but if you are someone who does use it quite frequently, this might be a bit of an adjustment, because on something like the G303 Shroud Edition, it's very easy to spam. I really like this. It's very lightweight, but it bounces back up very quickly as well. Whereas this, if I'm spamming the middle click, there'll be some times where my finger just is still pushing the button down. Again, for me, not a huge issue, but if you're coming from something with a very light scroll wheel, this is definitely going to be a bit of an adjustment. Moving on to the side buttons, they're raised up, but also nicely rounded. So it makes it very easy to just kind of roll your thumb over and press one of them. No issues there. They do still have that kind of like long travel that the mouse clicks do, but not something that really bothers me, right? There's side buttons, and you're probably not going to get as high quality buttons in the side clicks as opposed to the main mouse clicks. And even though these are rounded to kind of match the shape of the mouse, they still protrude out a little bit. So you will still feel them when you're just kind of like holding it, right? You won't accidentally press them. Overall, clicks and stuff are fine. I think Pulsar might be playing it a bit too safe, and I think they could have tightened this up a little bit so there's less travel. So let's talk about the performance aspect. I'm just going to get the battery part out of the way. I've only had to charge this once, which is when I got this mouse first, which was about a week and a half ago, and I haven't had a need to charge this mouse. So that's great that the battery life is decent. But I haven't really been able to test this or really experience that. Performance-wise, this mouse has been great. No issues with tracking or anything like that, no loss of signal. The only complaint I would have to say with the performance of this mouse are the skates. And so I'm a little disappointed by this because Pulsar does have their own, I guess, sub-brand, Superglides. So they definitely know how to make skates, but I don't know if it'll catch it. But it's been picking up fibers off of my mouse pad, and it's annoying. It kind of looks kind of gross, and sometimes it does feel a little bit scratchy moving up and down. So I'm not sure if these are just bad skates, like I just got a lemon, or if this is just how this mouse is. But comparing it to my G303 Shroud, this obviously does pick up dust and things like that, but it doesn't pick up actual fibers off of my mouse pad. Same goes for my MX Master 3. No fibers at all. And this is using the stock skates on the G303. I'm using core pads, and right now I have stock skates on this mouse. A lot of people actually do have issues with these skates as well. Right, again, might be just a bunch of lemons and might not be an issue. This specific issue might not be one that a lot of people experience, but I did end up getting some Tiger Ice mouse feet. So yeah, let's actually just throw these on right now. So I've taken out off the mouse feet, and just looking at these skates, they have this kind of brown backing to them, so I'm not really sure what this is made out of completely, whereas a normal PTFE foot should be translucent from what I'm understanding, just from my experience using other skates. And the reason why I got Tiger Ice skates is because they seem to be the most recommended for this specific mouse. And from what I understand, the skates are the same across all X2 models. So that applies to the X2, X2 Mini, and their different variants. When you have actual PTFE feet, like straight up PTFE, it's a translucent color. You can somewhat see through it, kind of showing up on camera where the middle section is like somewhat see-through. Pulsar says that their mouse feet are 100% PTFE. I don't really know if I buy that. That looks good. And ooh, whoa. Immediately an improvement. It feels a little bit faster, which is what I want. Because on these stock skates, when comparing it to my G303, which is a mouse that's 20-25 grams heavier, once I got them moving, they felt about the same weight. Now, I would say this definitely feels lighter, but I still think that there's not a huge difference in the glide here. Now, in terms of the software, I actually don't have the software installed anymore. I just removed the DPI levels and uninstalled it. So The profiles are saved to this mouse. You don't need software for that. So overall, been loving this mouse. It's really light. The shape is very safe. So a lot of people will be able to pick this up without having much issue. It's not going to fit everyone perfectly, but it'll fit everyone pretty well. The only real issue that I have with this are the skates. Some people might have issues with the clicks, which in my personal use cases, I don't, but it's just because I don't run into it, right? If I used my middle click more, I might have issues with that. When I'm gaming, I don't really notice the click travel. If like someone's very competitive or very used to like hair triggers and things like that, that's when this might be a bigger adjustment. But the only adjustments I had to make were really the weight, because this thing just flies, especially now with the new skates on there. But that said, that's going to be it for me. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about in this video, such as the Pulsar mouse, the G303 Shroud, or even the MX Master, which again, I'm not going to show because the mouse looks gross because of the wearing on the coating. Just let me know in the comments below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, if this video comes out in time, hope everyone had a happy New Year, or has a happy New Year, had a happy New Year's Day, and have a happy New Year. There we go. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.